Microphone. First mistake. We'll call to order the Thursday. I almost said Monday. Thursday, February 20th, Committee of the Whole Admin and Operations meeting. The second item on our agenda is the approval of the agenda. I need a mover and a seconder for the agenda. Moved by Councillor Chris Ward, seconded by Deputy Mayor Dillabaugh. Discussion on the agenda at all? Discussion on the agenda at all? No? Okay, call the question. All in favor? Good. Disclosure of pecuniary interest, conflict of interest, and the general nature thereof. Does anyone have a declaration?
I will be stepping away from the table at 8G.
Okay, you filed paperwork with the clerk?
Not yet,
Okay,
but I will.
make sure you do. Number 4, business arising from previous committee of the whole meeting minutes, if there are any. Does anyone have any items from the minutes? Seeing none, we'll move on to delegations and presentations. And we do have one tonight. It's CEO Donna Gladstone for the library board budget presentation. Welcome, Donna.
Thank you. First of all, I just want to thank council and committee for the opportunity to present our report for 2024 from the Edwardsburg Cardinal Public Library. On page, I'll just do the quick fact page, and then if folks have any questions, I'd be happy to answer. So our library card holders, in 2024, we issued 151 new cards. We had 9,497 library visits, and we circulated 14,171 items. And then there's just the money part of it. The majority comes from the municipality, and it goes out to salaries and the operation of the library, including buying books and offering programs. And I think the bottom line is the fact that for $1.39 per month, folks get to enjoy the library for no cost once they get there. So for $1.39, they can take out as many books, and we have not had, since I've been at the library, we have not had any paid programs. So everything is essentially free, which is how we like it, and we get some good turnout as a result. The second page is basically a comparison of our neighboring municipalities, and it's pretty self-explanatory. The information comes from the annual statistics that the Ontario Library Association puts out. So, and the Ontario Public Library Stats is where we get it. And just, I always like to, put out there that our municipalities that I compare that are closest to us all have only one branch. So we have 2. So we do very well with our budget and what we have to offer, I feel, but I'm a little partial, so. And I think the rest is just a breakdown, a comparison on page 3 of each year of what we've circulated, comparison, and every year, including 2024, we have our statistics are going up. So I'd be happy to answer any questions anyone may have.
All right, thanks, Donna. And I will open it to the floor. I'll just look for hands for who wants to speak. Councillor Smale.
Just one question.
Well,
Turn your mic on.
no, you don't on your, you don't up here.
I'm sorry, I forgot the question I was going to ask. No, on a serious note, through the chair to Donna,
Oh, boy.
I was just looking at the expenses. $2,000 a month they pay for phones at the library?
That's both branches. That's yes. Not $2,000 a month.
Oh, it's a year.
It's a year.
Okay, sorry. Thank
Sorry.
Okay, I'll look for further hands. Anyone else? Joe? Steve?
Sure. Nothing that we haven't seen. All I can say is thank you. Good job, your staff. Like you said, I keep looking at that. We have 2 libraries that we support, where the rest of the townships only have 1, and we're still below there. So, no, Donna, great job. Thank your staff, and I love coming in there and seeing the kids sitting around reading books. So, job well done. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to echo that as well. I mean, great job with your staff as well as and a lot of volunteers. I know a lot of volunteer efforts, and I mean, we even had some that we had options on recently as far as just great jobs going on in volunteers in the area as well. And like I said, yeah, just to the deputy mayor's point, the money just looks so great. Like that's great to see we can do that twice as many locations and similar cost to the lowest one. So good.
That's good. John, Karen, anything? No. I just had a couple of comment and a question, I suppose, Donna. The comment is, fantastic work as always. The numbers, you look from 2020, 2021, just up, it's doubled, right? In a short period of time. It's fantastic. The number of card users are way up as well. So my question is, though, is that because there's a rejuvenation, a bunch of young families? Is it better outreach? Like, what do you attribute? Like, that's double in a couple of years. I mean, it's pretty awesome.
So I think partially it's from new families moving in. I don't track. It's hard to track that kind of thing specifically. The last couple years we've also invited the school back in here in Spencerville to do their. We're doing biweekly visits now, just so we can have some extra time for our other patrons other than the school, because they're there Tuesdays and Thursdays from opening till close, and there's 200 students that are coming in. So
Right.
and every year we have to add more new cards for the new students. So I think it's a combination.
Okay.
I think COVID has also people seem to be more. They seem to appreciate the libraries a little more. We have found quite an increase in people finding their way to the library. So, and we're also very intent on taking requests. So when people come in, they ask for certain books, and we're catering to the patron. I mean,
Good.
without them, we don't have a library. So we're doing a lot more ordering, although our numbers, I still haven't reached that plateau of but I'm getting there. I will get there. I'm surprised we haven't reached that, but we're going to get there one of these days.
Sure.
I promise. But yes, I mean, I have an amazing staff and a great group of volunteers through the Friends, and of course Lori, who has received more asks for her program as well. So now we've got quite a waiting list. So
That's fantastic.
Yeah. So I'm glad everybody's, that they're using the resources that we're trying to provide to them.
Good.
So.
Awesome. To you and to all of the volunteers, the staff, fantastic job. Well done. Yep. Anyone else follow up? Nothing? Okay. Thanks, Don.
Thank you very much.
So no items on consent agenda Discussion items are none, so we are on to 8A, which is 2025 levy-based capital budget final, that's optimistic. Final revision. Is someone going to speak to it? Jess, are you going to lead us through it?
Thank you, through the chair. Yes, hopefully this is the final presentation of the capital budget for 2025. So what you have in front of you is the comprehensive list from the previous discussions. So currently, as the operating budget stands today, we are looking at an operating surplus of just over $1 million. Based on the operating budget, which will be discussed later in tonight's meeting, we do have 385,000 in one-time items and service level charges. So you will see that item listed as well. So having this added to be funded, it brings the total to 1,384,000. That would require additional levy, debt, or port dividend to fund. So the options here to fund this. First option, if you were to fund the capital plus the one-time items and the surface level charge or changes, it would be suggested to remove Browsville of 400,000 and complete this road in its entirety in 2026. And also the removal of Cedar Grove and Pittston East, which totals, removing those would bring us to a total of over 1.4 million. The other option is to use a construction loan to fund the additional roads. The loan would be over 10 years and based on current rates would be at 3.54%. And your third option would be to fund it through a dividend through the port.
Good. Okay. And thank you. That gives us the three options for funding. I think we're going to probably go through and still have another, full discussion on this. Is the idea that we're going to go through it now? Is that I'm looking to staff. So we want to go through the capital based portion of it now. Okay. All right. I just think for clarity, because there is a suggestion for the port dividend, the last 2 years there was an additional amount. So there was the million, but then there was a dividend from excess inventory sell-off. And do you remember what the dollar value was, Sean? I don't often. I know it was 750 range, but I don't remember what it was.
It was $585,000 and then 565.
Okay, so it wasn't as much as I thought. So
Yeah.
585 and 565.
Approximately.
And so far at this point this year, nothing, but there is a policy coming forward for sharing, right?
Correct.
Okay. All right. With that kept in mind, then does anyone want to go first? You go first. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I actually am not gonna help the situation, to be honest, but I do want to, especially in light of where the port is at, want to bring the splash pad back up to the 400,000 fully funded this year, based on either fund dividend sharing or much like they did with the aquatarium, the port covering the balance of that. So and I think we'll have to have that conversation on the funding, but I would like to bump that back up to $400,000. So.
Okay. So you're looking to go from the one you want to add to 4? Is that the idea?
Yeah, that was the number we
Back
had
to
originally.
4?
So yeah.
Okay. All right. So then are you looking for somebody to help you support that?
Would love for
You
people to support me on that. Yeah.
hoping to have some conversation based around that. Is that the idea?
Yeah, I think we had lots of conversation about it. Like I said, one of the things that I think is important is that we do some things in the Spencerville area, and I think this would be one that I want to make sure we try and do this year, to be honest. So,
Okay.
Not much else to chat about. I mean, I think we've had a little bit of discussion about it, and you know, I think, you know, it might be a bit of a struggle, but I'm hoping we can still manage to do it from an operations perspective as far as capacity goes. And like I said, I want to put the money in there for it to be able to do that. So
Okay. Yep. Fair enough. Do you want to go? Do you want to speak to it or no?
On. What do you want me to know?
We're talking about a splash pad again.
We're on the top subject with the splash pad?
Yes.
Yeah, my thoughts are the same as I don't think we're ready for it. First of all, I'd like to go duly chair to Mr. Spencer. Do we have anything in place with the Fair Board yet in writing?
Through the chair to the deputy mayor, they currently have an agreement they're reviewing with their legal department.
So we have nothing
We have
as
a-
of today.
We have a verbal that it will get done. Like,
Right.
We will take ownership of the building to be able to remove the building. So that's a verbal discussion, a verbal agreement that we've had with that, but until they have signed off on the actual paperwork, we wouldn't do anything.
So we have nothing signed off on.
No, they've had it now for about 4 weeks, and I believe they are meeting with sometime in the next week or two.
Okay, and do we have any tenders going out on this project?
We have not done anything on it yet until we make sure that we have the signed agreement with the fair.
Right,
Board. There's no
exactly.
sense putting it out to tender and doing all of the legwork, and then turning around and for some unknown reason, they've decided not to allow us to use it.
That's right. Okay. No, I'm still in favor of leaving the 100,000 only for that splash pad until we get a commitment from the Fair Board. Thank you.
I actually really like the idea of tying the port into the splash pad in Spencerville. It's the port has got connections through Ingredient to Cardinal, and they've got connections to Johnstown just by location and by the industrial park being right there. I think this would be a very good way to link the port to the north end. And it also gives us an opportunity to market the port to one of our busiest places in the township. You know, we have a massive agricultural fair right there. We have a bluegrass festival right there. We have the arena right there. I think we could take this beyond the port. You know, the other night, the port GM was talking about building partnerships. We could make this more into an industrial park splash pad and open up the door to, does anybody else want to get in on this? Would be a great opportunity to market our port, to market our industrial land that we have and that we're going to have in like the busiest spot in the township. I have no issues at all with putting the money in there, even if it can't be done this year. The funding is in there and it's in there, you know, we can get the ball rolling on it. But I think it's a discussion that the Port GM needs to be in on, but I think it's better than the township funding the park.
Thank you.
Through the chair, to Mike, when this was brought up last year, you never started working on it until this year, or like why? I don't understand. Like, why is it taking over a year to get permission and all that?
Through the chair to Councillor Smale, it's just a process. We met with a splash pad consultant late last year, and we do have some preliminary drawings and conceptual thoughts on how it's going to lay out. But the biggest stickling point was having to meet with the Fair Board. So I went and met with the Fair Board and pitched the idea and had great support. I don't see that it's not going to materialize, but until the contract is signed, I don't think we should be going to any further.
Okay, thanks, Mike. I agree with Joey. It's a great idea, and I think the money should be put back in there for the splash pad because there's a lot of stuff that's got done in Cardinal and Johnstown. Like, I don't want to see what happened to poor Steve trying to get the pickleball court. Make it 6 years before we get a splash pad. So I'm all for putting the money back in.
Karen?
Yeah, I think I agree too. I mean, it's, you know, we talked about that, well, I guess a year ago when we talked about putting something in the budget for Spencerville and
Yep.
the splash pad. And, I mean, if there's a way to have others help with the funding as well, whether it's the port or whatever, I think that's a great idea. But if we put the money in there and it doesn't get used, can it then be put in reserve to go to that later, or how does that work? Yeah.
Through the chair, if any money is like, so we allocated that money and any money is spent, the remaining amount would be put into a work in progress
Okay.
for
Okay.
the next year.
Thank you.
John?
Well, I think we need the money in there, all right, but the location, what's council actually trying to do? Is the fair take possession of the property? Or you're just getting permission to use it?
I'm looking to staff.
Yes, so it would be, as Deputy Mayor just indicated, would be a long-term lease. Just the agreement allows us to go in and remove the existing structure that's on the property. And it would be a long-term lease for us to be able to utilize the facility, like the land, for the purpose of a splash pad.
So the fair board will still own it and still control it. All the township will have is the right to put a splash pad in there.
The municipality would basically take over the operation of the property, including the well. And utilize it for the splash pad and maintain the splash pad once it is erected. The fair board wouldn't have any control over what the township puts in the splash pad area.
Well, the history of the township working with the fair board hasn't been great.
We're gonna change that.
If the fair board doesn't need the land, why wouldn't the township just take possession of it? That'd be a simple way, then you control it. You don't have to worry about how the lease agreement's wrote or anything else.
I think the idea is the least, John, but I see no reason why that can't be a further discussion down the road. I think what we're trying to get at is whether we want to do 100,000 for planning or $400,000 to place market to actually build it and get it done. And maybe part of that 400,000 is acquisition of the land.
I'm all for leaving the money in, just
Yeah, your point is more wanting to own it than.
Because we've had a lot of contentions over the years, so.
Okay, all right. Yep, good point. I think staff's heard, the potential for purchase versus lease, see if there's an option to, to do that. It's worthwhile having the discussion, right? I mean, and the suggestion
I'll certainly
there.
approach the fair board with that, and saying that, we do have a current agreement right now for the ball diamond. That we have had for 40 years with the fair board.
Mhm.
So I agree with Mr. Hunter's comments about that the past relationships have not been the best with the fair board over the years. But I do feel that we've kind of gone over the hump on that, and the last 2 or 3 years, we've had a good working relationship with the fair board, and we're helping during the event, leading up to the event, after the event. So I feel that the relationship is certainly getting stronger as time goes. It's not going the other way.
Yeah, I think exploring all the options, right? When it comes for, I get that the relationship's stronger and growing. But understanding our options probably is a smart thing to do as well. And, maybe the possibility is that it's ours instead of theirs. Like, I don't think it hurts to ask. Especially when we're doing the work anyways. I support putting it in as well. I struggle with it coming out. I know we worked hard to get pickleball courts done. it's been said, I think the money that we put in, what Joe said about the work, it reminds me of how we did the, it's not a play structure, the thing at the Aquatarium with the ball pit, for the, right. And we worked, that was a close to $200,000 investment from the port to build that thing as well. So I certainly agree with leaving the 400 in. So what it does is it changes the funding from 1 to 1.3 now, right? 1.385 or something like that.
That's correct. Yes. And if we were to include the one-time items, it would be 1.6.
Okay. So I guess that was a question that I had for later, but every one of those one-time items is not included in the budget?
They are included currently.
So they're already put in the capital portion of the,
Not the operating. So I just added it in as a line because it would require additional funding from the operating budget.
okay, so we will talk about it in item G then? Is that where we'll talk about the one-times, or is the one-times part of this?
Yeah, each department is going to speak to their one-time items.
Okay, and I just want to make sure that we understand, because I found it a little confusing to whether they're included in the 3%, they're not included in the 3%.
Currently, they're included.
They're included, so there's no additional.
So if you want to look at it, if we were to include those one-time items, the surplus would drop from just over $1 million to 700. What you want to look at it that way.
I think you're gonna have to walk me through it. Yep. Yep. I just want to make sure that I understand exactly what I'm getting into, because I found it a little tiny bit confusing. Okay, so certainly consensus to put the 400 back in for the splash pad. There's no doubt on that. All right. Further speak. Yes.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just for the record, I'm 150% for the splash pad. I'm not happy we're putting 400,000 taxpayers' money in there that people are going to pay taxes on this year, and we're not going to use it. I know it's going to come up in 2026, and then when we have everything, then I don't mind. But right now, we're going to have a surplus of 350,000 probably next year that taxpayers paid on that. And that was my only beef on that. I'm 100% with it. I think it's a great idea. I was the one that went out and approached it, but I just don't think the way we're financing it of the 400,000 this year is the right thing to do when taxpayers are going to be on the hook and it's not going to be used. That's all.
But only tax dollars if it's levied.
Right.
If you're saying the 400 goes on to 2025 levy, then that's levy. If it comes from a dividend, it's not levy.
No.
So you need to be clear on that. I don't want any confusion on where the dollars come from. Okay, further discussion then on what's here. Anyone? Somebody's got to take a stab at it.
I mean,
Please
it's
don't add
as we
more.
talked about before, it's a big number, and I know we pulled in roads, and then part of the comment, that we talked about with the treasurer just earlier was we added $1 million, I think it was over $1 million in roads there, and so is there a compromise where some of these roads maybe go off and go to next year, we've driven on them, I keep coming back to the fact that I think we had a pretty stable annual plan from the roads department, from Public Works department, from the roads department on how much we were going to do every year dollars wise and kilometers wise, and I thought that was pretty solid. So, I think if we want to take a couple of road or two off of here to try and bring that number down, I'm okay with that. There's even that I've been on Pittston Road lately, and I know it's rough, but could it wait another year? I think it possibly could, but and I know that gets that's right down the road from me, but. So that's an option. Cedar Grove is rough, but it's also expensive. It's the biggest chunk, to be honest, that we have on roads right now. And so I don't know what other people's thoughts are, but if we were talking about roads, I think one or both of those could be potential we could take off of here to try and balance it if we wanted to. So, but
I for one have no
leave
interest
it
in
open.
taking any roads
Yep,
off.
that's fine.
I just don't want to add any more at this point. Do you want to speak or no?
Oh, no, I'm with you. I'm not going to stop. I mean, that's what we're voted in for, to do our roads and so on. I'm going to continue to do it.
You guys?
I do not like removing the roads, but I 150% like getting the port dollars involved. I think that's a great plan.
Waddy?
Thank you. I definitely want the roads done. I've been on all those roads that are listed here, and they're in rough shape. The public want roads done, so I agree with Mr. Dillabauer. We should do it.
Okay. Karen, comment? You don't have to if you don't. It's fine. John?
Just what's is council's plan on how they're financing the extra $1 million for these extra 3 roads?
Yeah, I think that we have to come to that agreement first. We have to come to the understanding of what we're actually, what the number is, and then we have to come to that understanding. At the last port management committee meeting, there was a policy brought forward that will come back at next meeting about potential revenue sharing. So I think that there is an option there. We don't know what that option is yet, but there's no rush to pass a budget yet anyways. But I'm getting the sense there was certainly supported unanimously, I think, to have a strong policy in place moving forward as to how that how the revenue would be utilized there. What that is yet, we don't know. But this certainly the support from the full committee was there to do that. The implication could be that from a capital perspective, there would be dollars that would more than fund what this amount is. So I think until that policy's in place, Frank is working with Sean and Leslie, and they're going to come back with something to present to the committee that makes sense for both the port and the township. So I think in my mind that some of this will be supported through that. I think, well, I know that everyone at the table supported it. So
I'm all for the roads getting fixed, but all the roads in the township pretty near needing fixed. You can't do them all in 1 year.
yep, that's right.
And you paid for a road study done that laid out a plan of when these roads are being done, and you're trying to accelerate by what the road study delivered to you to. So I don't know what the point was of having your staff do a road study and lay out a budget plan for you to eventually accomplish your roads all done when you basically are throwing it out the window and just adding to all the time.
Yeah, I think good points. I think from our perspective is that years of not making investment back into our infrastructure, both roads, bridges, culverts, 0% tax increases over the years, just relying upon growth to fund that. I know you sat at the table with me arguing for 4% and 5% increases, and we went with 0. And now we're going to put money back into the budget and fund the infrastructure that we couldn't afford to fund then, and you're struggling with it. So I'm trying to get caught up on the infrastructure that we put behind over the last decade, and that's what we're doing. Further?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. This study that was done, I'm not sure what it is, but as not a counselor, as a citizen, if you travel these roads, I mean, I get told every time I meet people how bad they are. Like, just take a drive down Cedar Grove or take a drive down Piston East. Like, I plowed both those roads for a living, and I always wished that they would fix them and get them, like, they've needed repair for over 25 years. And we did all of Glen Smale when I was working with the roads department, which was 25 years ago, and now it's starting to decay. So if we don't stay on these roads, we're going to be in big trouble the next council.
It's almost, well, it is impossible to keep up. I mean, we looked at the numbers. We did this just did it through the United Counties, and there's no mechanism at the United Counties with the amount of money that's going into roads right now. We'd have to more than double the budget to keep up on the roads. So we're in the same shape here. Like, you know, everybody talks about converting gravel roads to pavement, and then once you get at this table, you realize that there's not a chance that you can do that. You know, like Armstrong Road, Rock Road, all those roads that, you know the ones we're talking about. Like the only way that those roads are going to move forward and actually have the funding behind it is to move ahead. We have to do these projects. Okay, so from a roads perspective, anyone, Chris, you want to remove some? I don't think there's any support to remove any.
Yeah, no, I was more, I mean, you know, to try and help with the extra cost is all I'm saying. You know, it was an option. And I'm not necessarily in favor of it either. I mean, I just, but I mean, we had a plan, and you know, I was basing it on the recommendation we were given essentially from that perspective. So
I think, and it's tough because there's two things going on, right? We're waiting for a policy to come forward.
Yeah.
And we think we know what the policy is going to say, but we don't.
it was
And I mean, we just added 300,000 back in, and we very well may have to take out 600,000 depending upon what that policy allows us to do.
Yeah.
Because I don't get the sense that there's anyone at the table that wants to do this via debt. And I don't get the sense that there's anyone that wants to do this via taxation. At least I haven't heard anyone say either of those things. So the only potential is through that policy. And until that policy actually comes forward, and until we have time to discuss it, debate it, I'm fine with leaving everything in, knowing full well that some of it may have to come back out.
Yep.
Right? You can only afford to do what you can. And if we do this just based on what we can afford through taxation, none of this stuff's getting done.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Right.
Like I said,
So-
yeah, and I wasn't trying to say that I wanted to take roads out. I mean, you know, we know that they're not in great shape. And you know, to your point, there's, you know, we got to balance how much money we have essentially, right? So, and so when we don't know part of the conversation until we have that other conversation. So I'm okay with leaving them all in.
Okay.
So if I can just excuse me, insert myself into the conversation, just to keep things on track. I think what we're looking for as staff is, you know, how the shortfall would be funded and what needs to stay in the budget. Like the plan is on March 10th, when we have our next committee meeting, is you'll be presented with a consolidated budget that's balanced. And the sense that I'm getting around the table is a port dividend would be needed to balance, and then we can deal with that. You know, I think it's just important to go through the capital items to make sure that everything is in that everybody wants to have in, and then on the operating items for the one-time items to give some discussion and thought whether there's any chance for deferral and what needs to be in there. And then we can present on the 10th the consolidated balanced budget, and we'll show what dividend is required to balance the budget.
Okay. And I would add one thing to that, because this budget is based on, I think, a 3%, right? So we probably should understand what the group's willing to go to, whether it's 3%, whether it's 5%, whether it's 1%. We should probably understand what that number is.
For sure. And I think if we can get a sense after tonight's meeting as to what stays in and what goes out from, you know, a last sober look at it, then, and what the funding mechanism is. So if we want to deviate from the 3% and maybe go a little bit higher, given what needs to get done, we can certainly put that in the budget that would reduce the dividend. So the direction that we would want is 3% where we want to be, and do we want to use a port dividend to fund the remainder of the budget? As long as we have answers to those two questions and all the other items that will be presented, we have enough that we can present a consolidated budget on March 10th
Okay.
for discussion.
And so the number that's been presented thus far in this budget includes growth,
That's correct. 1.14%.
1.14, right? And does it include the blended amount from the United Counties based on that 6.7 or whatever it was last year?
Through the chair, that comes when we do the final tax rate. It's not a budget item. What the county does with their budgeted rate, it'll affect what our final tax rate is, but just the municipal portion is 3%.
Yeah, because it'll blend those two together to get what the actual rate really is.
Correct.
Right. So that 3% will change regardless based on what the county's is. Okay. So I just want to say that we passed the county's budget today. It was better news than the 6.7 or whatever was anticipated. It ended up passing at 5.11. So still it's 5%, but in the world of sitting around having conversations with fellow mayors afterwards, there's two mayors that are double digits at this point. One's 12.2 and one's 14. So, you know, we managed to get a lot of this work done for under 5%. We're in good shape. So, you know, I mean, if that's the number we land on, that's in my eyes, that's the number we land on. So, yes.
Sorry, I was on before. I didn't realize. So I don't recall, and maybe we heard it and I just don't recall, but do we know the school board portion? Is it, I know they've been doing a lot of 0%, but.
It's still a 0.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Yeah. So
Mr. Mayor, I think what we're looking at then was us at 3, and then if the counties came in at 6, 7, it was going to be 3.4. Does that sound right?
That's correct. If you
Jess?
take a look at the.
I just want to know the final, so it's going to be a little lower if we, yeah.
So with the assumption in the report, the assumption was the counties was going to remain the same at 6.14.
Right,
The total tax increase was 3.676. So
3.6. So we'll probably be down about 3.4. Wouldn't we? Would under 5, would that put us around 3.4?
I'd have to run the numbers, but
Okay,
yes.
that's fine. But it's going to be lower than 3.6.
Yes, it would be lower.
Okay.
And so if we were to fund more of that through tax, for every 1% that we put in, it's equal to 70, 74, 73, 68.
It's low 70s, 68 to 70,000.
Okay. All right. So for every percent, that'd be the number. All right. So I'm just going to try to get it back on track for you, Sean. Sorry. Answers to the 3 questions, right? That's sort of the scenario. I think it's clear. I think from even the port management meeting, it was pretty clear how, you know, everybody's waiting on that number for that. I haven't heard anybody say debt.
No. Go with it.
I don't see any nods for debt. I don't see taxation higher. Goal of 4, under 4. So I think that those instructions stay basically the same. Is there further that you need on that then?
No, thank you.
Okay. All right. And so knowing full well that this will come back, and the amount that we saw from sell-off last year was 585, right?
That's correct. Or 565 last year. It was a little bit lower.
Okay. And I know we're going to go through the one times for the operating, but I just want to make sure that I'm reading this correctly. So on the bottom of the funding, levy-based funding analysis page, it's 1.94668, and then we just added 300 to that, so it's 1394668.
Other way.
Say again.
Where that comes is the 1,384,148 as far as the additional levy, debt, or port dividend.
Yes.
We've added 300,000, so it'll be 1,684,148.
Yeah. Right. But we still haven't discussed. So we okay, just so that I'm getting this right. So the 1.94668 is what we're without any of the one-time and service level changes. That's where we're at right now.
Yeah, that's the operating surplus on base budget.
Okay. And we just added 300 more to that though, did we not?
We're on capital. We're not on
We're
operating.
on capper. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong thing. All right. All right. So you just want to look at the bottom, the additional levy, debt, or port dividend portion. So it's going to switch to 1.684.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Okay. And so then that is the number that we have to fully fund at the end.
Correct. Once, and that's why if there's some of the one-time items or service level changes that don't make it through, then that'll change the number as well. So what you'll have on the 10th is a final number needed to balance the budget.
Okay. And we're going to walk our way through each and every one of those service level change and
Correct.
one-time items now.
Correct.
Okay. And of that 1.384148 right now, is any that's totally unfunded at this point. That doesn't include the 3% increase we were already talking about.
Well, it does because it's in the operating budget already. So the operating budget generated a surplus of $1,094,668 on base budget. So that's a 3% increase, 1% for growth, and then all of the other changes. So insurance, wages, everything else. We get to an operating surplus. We originally predicted it at 1 million. It came in at just under 1.1 million. So we did better on that. And then with the one-time items and service level changes, that takes 384,000 off of that. And then and that's what is left to actually fund the capital budget. So if you take a look at the tax levy, that $2,093,093, less $600,000, you're going to get that $1.684 million dollars to balance. So
right. That's the one. That's the. Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. So we're leaving. There's no recommendation for this. We've given direction on where we're at. The number that I just want to make sure that I've got this clear in my head. So the number that we need to find funding for is 1.384148.
plus 300,000 that you've added for
Right.
this.
Yeah. No. I get that. I'm looking at what the sheet that's in front of me, but we've added 300,000 to it, but that's the number.
That's the number.
Okay. All right. Good. All right. And the solution for that will come potentially, whatever the recommendation is that comes out from Frank. Okay. Well, then we have to go back to this after that. Right. Okay. All right. So we can move on then. Yep. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. There's no recommendation. We've given direction. Okay. So the library board budget then. And is there, Donna's not here. Is somebody going to speak to library budget or?
I can quickly go over the report. So through the chair, proposed grant for the library board for 2025 based on the presentation that was provided earlier this evening. The board requires an additional $4,800 in order to offer the current services. The recommendation would be to approve the requested amount and have it included in the 2025 operating budget.
Good. And there is a recommendation. The recommendation reads that committee recommends to council to approve the requested 4% increase totaling 4,800 in the 2025 municipal grant supporting the Edwardsburg Cardinal Public Library.
So move.
I didn't think there was going to be a lot of
Seconded.
discussion on this. First and second. Is there discussion? It's been moved in second, so it's on the floor. Is there discussion regarding the $4,800 increase to the library? Okay, hearing and seeing none, then I'll call the question. All in favor? Good. Okay, that one was simple. And I think it comes, and we said that to Donna when she was here, but it's very clear that the library is going in a fantastic direction. The partnership that it seems to have out here with Centennial School, and it's certainly building on that partnership. It sounds like all the time, and it's increasing library visits and card sign up. So it's fantastic. Road program enhancements. Dave, are you speaking to it, or Chris? You are? Okay. Floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. What we're looking at here is the potential for a service level change with respect to the roadside program. In particular, right now we're doing mowing and brushing on there. And I think that we would benefit after we've completed the brushing to have that area mulched into a finer area so that some of the stumps, et cetera, that can get overgrown with grass before the mower gets to it will be mitigated, less chance of damage to the mower, and sort of an improved right-of-way area. In addition, some of the areas that we're getting a number of calls on are trees that are, especially with the activities that we've done at the waterfront in Johnstown the last couple of years. There have been a lot of inquiries with respect to trees that, how do I put it, when they're good and healthy, they're probably on private property. When they're not so healthy and need some action taken, they're typically on township property. So we've been very selective, but certainly there are a lot more trees that likely need to come down, and we haven't really. There's about 10,000 in the budget, and that limits the amount of trees that we can actually take down and spend on replanting. So there are 4 options available. We can remain status quo and only include the 15,000 that was done through council resolution in the fall to support the South Nation Conservation grant submission for that 3-year program for additional tree planting on roadsides. Our recommendation would be that we would do a pilot project where we would select an area and do some mulching operations, sort of have a before any activity and then a post activity to bring back to council to assess the value and the benefit of doing some of those enhancements to see if it's something that may move forward in future budgets. I guess basically that's sort of the summary, and certainly will answer any questions that you may have with respect to well, I guess what we would consider a slight service level change.
Thank you, Director of Ops. Dave, if I can, before I put it over to everyone, why, is it complaints from public that we've received when we do the roadside brushing? It seems weird to do, in my mind, when I was reading it, I'm like, okay, so we're going to brush everything out and then we're going to plant trees where we just brushed. And I struggled with that, understanding it a little bit. So just wondering how it and where we got it and how it ended up in front of us.
Well, a combination. Certainly, we have received complaints with respect to after we've brushed an area, the aesthetics of that area. But I think more importantly, with the mowing operation, the brushing doesn't bring those stumps down to that fine of a material. And you know, when you have the mower attachment going over those and they're hidden, you know, you got a lot of banging and stress on that unit that, you know, we think that by potentially at least trying it to mulch that up and do it like a fine mulch, mow it for a couple things, and then you know, sort of strategically place some newer tree foliage that will have the opportunity to grow. I think a lot of the areas have become overgrown with a bunch of trees in a very short proximity to each other, where this would be spread out a little bit more. That would provide a little bit of canopy, a little bit of, you know, protection on the road with respect to drifting and other areas that way. So it's a kind of a combination of several items that sort of have been raised periodically over the last few years that we, you know, thought it was a reasonable time to bring something like this forward, especially when there's the potential to have some grant funding from South Nation to help sort of accelerate that program.
All right. All right. I think we need to hear what everybody else thinks. So, yeah.
Thank you. Option number 2, if I read, I mean, I know it says total 45,000. That's if I'm doing my math correct, that's a $30,000 ad because we already accounted for the 15,000 planting. Is that correct, or is that in addition to the 15,000 we already had budgeted there? Sorry.
So through the chair to Councillor Ward, that is correct. We would have already put in the 15,000 there, so that would be an additional.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, I struggle with this one as well. I had the same thoughts that the mayor had, that, you know, what was the why, and but I know we talked a lot about the mulch, or sorry, the ditch mowing this year and the cost of that and everything else. So I see kind of where you were going with it. So yeah, I don't know if I have a decision just yet. I mean, I'm on the fence on this one, literally, I guess is the thing there, because, you know, I think the mower was about $30,000 or something as well. So I'm not sure that $30,000 to see if it's gonna lessen or extend the lifetime of that makes a lot of financial sense. But so I'm probably not in favor unless everybody else is, in which case I can whatever. But
Yeah, you're slightly inside the fence, not out on it. Yeah. Steve.
The other approach I'm taking is option 4. What's the full service level change? What's that consist of, Dave?
So with that full service level change, you'd be looking at the removal of approximately 50 trees, planting of 25, plus about 25,000 in mulching.
So the trees we remove, like, I'm trying to get away from the trees. So can we plant wildflowers there instead of trees, or do we need trees back up? Different types of trees. Because right now, you're right. Some of them are out of control, overgrown. And this is why a good example is Broswell Road in some areas, or even Crowder Road. So can you help me out on that? Like,
Well, I can certainly, I can try. So there is nothing to say that in certain situations that it couldn't be, you know, wildflowers or a different type of treatment, or actually do nothing. You don't need to necessarily plant anything different. We certainly know, like Froome Road is a good example where we have a pile of, you know, trees. There's probably 25 or 30 by the broker farms. that require some need of work, probably removals. So of that 25, we wouldn't be looking to replant 25. We would probably look at, let's say half of that or a quarter of that, just to sort of keep some of the aesthetics, but spread that out and have, I guess, keep the beautification, because trees do add a lot of value. And I think we're partnering with Safe Nation. And I'm anticipating that it's more probable that they receive the funding than they don't receive the funding. So it's just a matter of trying to keep up. 10,000 doesn't go very far with respect to removals. We've just received money 2 years ago through Ministry of Natural Resources for some work. We finished that up with the waterfront and Johnstown, but that the removal portion in Johnstown was probably around 55,000. So if we want,
So really, you're looking at 10,000 for mulching and 20 for tree removal, plus the 15 for new trees. But that's what you're pretty much looking for, is the 30 grand. Is that right?
correct.
This side?
Question, Mr. Chair, through you to the Director of Operations. If you do a pilot project, how big would how are you talking, like a mile? Sorry, 2 kilometers? Do you have a spot in mind or a size in mind?
A fair question. I'm not sure how far we would get on the pilot project. I know that with the what we know of the sort of the hourly rate for the mulcher, we're probably looking around 350 to 400 an hour. And now I'm just not sure what rate of speed that that unit would travel with respect to doing that area. So there would still need to be some fine tuning with respect to that. We've just sort of taken that for lack of a better one, just that amount. We would invest so many hours, see how far we get, and go from there when we select an area.
Thank you. Through the chair to Dave, back to Mr. Martel's question. The area you pick, would you pick a rougher area, or you'd pick a smaller area in the pilot project?
I think ideally we would try to select an area that's in need, that isn't in the worst condition, so that we could actually get a farther area done to actually see if it's of true value. Because if we're only able to do an extremely small patch, I don't think it gives the ability to truly assess it. So I think that's part of the strategic end of trying to figure out what area would be best suited to have that project done.
I just have one more question. One more question, Dave. Back to the start where you were saying about the trees in Johnstown and stuff. The question I have is, in villages where we have water lines, I understand the township owns property right to the water shutoff. Am I correct?
Through the chair, typically the curb stop valve is located at the property line, generally speaking.
Okay, now the question back to this is, there's no water lines in Johnstown. How many feet do we own? Is it measured from the center line of the road in, or is it 66 feet? Or from what I've heard for years, I don't know if it's true or not, so I'm fine. I try to ask. People are asking me like if we own the tree, and I can't answer them.
So, in in fairness, without a survey, it is difficult to say with certainty, but typically, we have a number of plans that sort of indicate that the road width, it's either, 40 feet, in some cases it would be 50, and some, in rare occasions, it would be the 66. That would be ideal if it was, but we typically go by the driving platform, the ditch area, and on that backside of the ditch is where we start to look at it's coming close to being on private property. The challenge is that when a tree is sort of on that borderline and could do damage to our public infrastructure, you weigh some of those items, and in certain cases you make the best judgment. If the tree's deemed to be like unsafe by an arborist, you would take the action.
Thank you very much for that clarity. Appreciate it.
I did. Thank you. Just one follow-up question for the Director of Operations. Do you know if any of our neighboring communities have had this issue? If there's any spots where we go and look at it and say, hey, that's what it's going to look like, kind of thing, or go from their experiences?
Through the chair, in fairness, I'm not aware of any. We may be on cutting edge technology. I'm not sure, but I'm sure we're not. Exactly. So, but I think not that I'm aware of, but we can certainly reach out.
Are we, so I'm trying to figure out what the actual commitment that we're asked to do. The partnership is with SNC. If we do the pilot, it says 45. But is SNC paying some of that 45, or are they only contributing the 15 to make it 60? Like I'm confused on what the actual dollar values are.
Certainly, Mr. Chair. So there's 15,000 that we would be contributing in option 1 or in option 2, right? And if the SNC grant was successful, there would be an additional 15,000 that would be funded through I believe the program is through FCM, the grant. So you would have 30,000 for tree planting. Out of there, we've committed 15,000, and they would match that over the 3-year period. So technically, the addition would be the 30,000, the 10, and the 20.
So we're still paying 45.
Correct.
Ultimately, the program's gonna be 60 grand.
If successful, yes.
Right. Okay. All right. I was just wondering if that 45 actually came down by 15 and made it 30. That's where I was going with it. Okay. Haven't heard support. Haven't heard negativity. Haven't heard just a lot of questions. So let's cut to the chase here. Option 1, 2, 3, 4. I haven't heard 3 or 4 from anybody. I'm assuming no. You guys want to start over again?
Sure. No, I'm still firmly planted on just the side of the fence of doing nothing. So
Planted on option
planted.
1.
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Steve?
For this year, let's change option 1.
Joey?
Yeah, I think I'd go with option 1.
Waddy?
I agree. Option 1.
Karen? John? Yeah. All right. That's pretty clear. Option 1 it is. All right. Is there a recommendation with that? Did I read it? Did I get a mover and a seconder? Move it. You're moving it? Oh, no, you've got to change it.
We'll have to change it to option number 1 if that's the one that council wishes to move.
Just let me get back here. All right. Trying to find it. I moved on already. I'm on the wrong page. No, I know. I'm on eScribe though.
Do I need a friendly reminder for that, or do I just make a motion that to change it from option 2 to option 1.
Yeah, recommendation would read that committee recommends that council include option 1 for consideration into the 2025 budget.
That is correct.
Chris moves.
A second.
Steve seconds. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, move on. Where are we now? Are
8D.
Are we on D? Okay, so
Oh, I see what you're saying. 8B. No, 8C. 8D. Yeah.
8D, right?
Yeah, D.
Yeah, okay, so the list of D, so the list of 2025 Public Works one-time items. You speaking of this one too? Good luck.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So you have you have the items before you. I just will note with these particular items, we've placed a priority rank of 1 or 2. And 2 is, you know, although we would recommend it move forward, it certainly is something that if you were looking to take off the list, you know, those would be the areas that we would suggest that you look to remove off of the list, with the one caveat on item number 12 with the stormwater monitoring plan. If there isn't the interest and willingness to commit the 50,000 at this particular through one budget cycle, that if it was dropped to 25 with 25 being put in 2026 to complete, it is a regulatory requirement that we will have to complete. We're trying to get a little bit ahead of it because our stormwater system, the diagrams and infrastructure is not up to the same quality that we have at the water and sanitary side from drawings and the knowing the full network as well. So I guess with that said, certainly can answer any questions on any of the particular items. Instead of me sort of rambling through each one, if there's particular ones that you want to discuss.
Yeah, okay. For that item in particular, for the number 12, can we get an ECA done for 100 grand? I mean, it's 50 grand in there. The 1-2 means that it's priority 1 or priority 2, or does it mean it's only half of the money? I was thinking half this year, half next year, but that's what I was thinking, is that it was 100 grand. Because can we get an ECA done for 50 grand?
So through the chair, it is the stormwater management or monitoring plan that is a subcomponent of our existing ECA that we have through the we're not redoing the linear infrastructure ECA. We're just there's a requirement to have that monitoring plan established. So it's going to need a third party engineer to complete that for us.
Right.
So it could be 50,000. We complete it all in 2025, or we could stagger it, kind of start it in 2025 and finish it in 2026. So 25,000 could come off and 25,000 put into 2026 to finish it.
When do we have to have it done for, Dave?
Well, I think we're looking at end of 2026 to have it completed. We're still waiting for the MECP to issue some additional guidance on what they're looking for in that particular document. That said, I would rather start on some of the core items that we know will need to be included in there, because even though they may delay in issuing their guidance, it's unlikely that they're going to adjust their timeline for our completion.
Okay. And well, I mean, knowing how long it took to do the plan for the second pump out, that was 18 months in the making, right? So, right, just from the engineering portion of it. So I know this won't be that long, but potentially, I mean, some of these things take a little longer than what we have patience for.
If it does, I will have no hair.
Well,
Don't even go there. Let's move on. Let's move on.
I think
Don't go there.
if I can go there, I'll just look for nodding heads on this one. Is everybody okay with leaving number 12 in
At 25?
at 50?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. John? Yes. Okay. So that one's done. All right. Is there anything that I'm going to do it a different way. Is there anything that anyone wants to take out of this list instead of, let's just say that everything else is staying in unless I hear somebody want to take something out?
Like to take 1, 5, 6, 9, 10.
1, 5, 6,
Out.
9, 10. 1, 5, 6, 9, 10.
Yeah.
1, 5, 6. Do you want to speak to them?
No, well, the camera, I don't think we need one this year in Dishaw Street. I'd rather do the one on County Road 22. That's the one on Pittston, is that right, people? The 13,000?
Through the chair, that is correct.
Yeah, I'd like to keep that in for sure.
You want to keep
New computer, small tools. I don't think the rims are a big deal. I don't think the spreader control is a big deal. Tire replacement, yes. Safety. And our planning for the Campbell Ventnor Road, yes. And the sod on Reed Street.
Okay. And did you say you wanted 2 left in or you wanted 2 taken out?
No, I want 2 in.
You want 2 in and 1 out.
Yeah.
Okay. So 1, 5, 6, 9, 10. Okay. Anybody else want to speak to that? Steve, shut your mic off. You want to speak? Oh, I guess I could have done that.
It's okay. I don't mind the walk. No, I don't have any objection. I don't think to what the deputy mayor said. The only thing I wasn't sure of in that list is on Dishaw Street camera. I mean, is there a criticality to it, or is it just trying to get some things checked off of a list, I guess?
Through the chair, I think given that there is a fair bit of activity at that location, we have a lot of infrastructure, materials and equipment at that location. We're around, you know, there's a large part of public use in and around that location. I think it's probably just the next step with respect to all of the departments using that facility. It kind of makes sense to have a centralized system where you know who's in and out of that location. And, you know, as indicated in the item, we've had OPP approach us probably 2 to 3 times in the last 12 months with respect of hoping that we may have some footage in and around that area because of activities that have been under investigation. So we haven't had a camera there in the past. It's one of those items that we could go another year without. I just think it's reached a time that, you know, we should be seriously considering, you know, enhancing the monitoring at our facilities.
Is this one's sorry to cut in on you, Chris. Is this one a split with the fire department as well?
Number 1 would be a split with the fire department.
And so when I was reading through, there was 5,000 in the fire department budget for this, but it sounded like it was a 50-50 split. This one says 11,000. So is it actually 16,000 or is it 10,000 or is it?
So to do the complete building, the camera and the fob system would be 16,000.
Okay.
So the fob system is 10,000, which would be a split between the fire department and public works. So 5 and 5, and then 6,000 for the camera system.
Okay. All right. Does that help you, Chris?
Yeah, no, it does. And I mean, when I look at it, we have party one and party two. And in my mind, I was thinking the party two could go. So if we want to do if the deputy mayor proposes, and I'm okay with it, that we do County Road 22 first, it just means that we'd put that on for next year. And I'm okay with that. So it's good.
Yeah, still step forward.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would be comfortable taking out 5, 8, and 10. May I ask a question on the cameras? To our CAO, if we put those security system in, is that going to affect our insurance any? Will that bring our insurance down?
Through the chair, likely not. I think we're already insured for loss, and it's more just the value of the asset. So
Thank you for your
So
I aim to please.
5, 5, 8, and 10. Okay.
Thank you, your worship. Little bit on the camera stuff. I worked there for 30 years, and there was hardly ever one break-in. And I don't know about Piston, but if we had better lighting, like there's all kinds of people live around there. Like I don't see the need for cameras. I mean, if you're going to steal something out of the yard, you're going to be seen going down the road with it, because everything in that yard is like huge that you're going to steal. So, to me, I'd take them both out.
Karen? John?
What I was wondering about,
Microphone, John.
the truck 7 spreader controller, or what the reasoning was.
Well, thank you through the chair. So truck 7 is the only unit remaining that actually has a manual spreader, the dial system. The rest of the units have the auto spreader control. Actually, it can feed back into our GPS system, so we can actually determine what the spread rates are, quantities discharged. So that's the one remaining unit, and it would be valuable to have all of our units that are reporting in with respect to that from a liability and in the event of insurance claims.
Good.
Well, that's kind of what I figured it was. I think we definitely need, you need control on your spreading rates, so.
That one's number 6. Is that right? Yeah, so make sure 6 stays in. Okay. All right, have we whittled this list down at all?
I think so. I think you're adding back on.
So with regards to that number 6, with the spreader, sorry, is truck 7, is that one of our newer trucks, or is that one of the older trucks? Because I don't want to, if it's nearing its replacement anyways, I don't really want to do it, to be honest.
So through the chair, truck 7 is age-wise, it would be older. However, that unit probably 3 years ago, or maybe it's 4 now, that we replaced the engine in that unit. So from a longevity standpoint, I think it has a number of years of service remaining. One of the nice things with some of those systems is that, if it's, in 3 or 4 years, there's nothing to say that it couldn't be removed and placed into a new unit if needed. But I anticipate that it will, truck 7 will remain in the fleet for the next 4 to 5 years at least.
All right, so I'm looking for help. The suggestions so far, I mean, 10. I think I've heard 3 people say 10. Chris, you didn't really give a list.
5 and 10 you have consensus on.
5 and 10. Okay, I'll scratch those off. I think I've heard people speak to 1. I'm fine with taking 1 and 2 off. I had 1 and 2 on both my lists, so I'm fine with if the group.
Sorry, I can talk. Sorry, I had originally had 5, 5, 6, and 10. I think it was 10 off of my list. I can go either way on 1 and 2, to be honest. So if we want to take them off, I can support that. And based on that conversation about being able to move on number 6 to the next truck, I was gonna take it off, and I still, but based on some of the conversation that Mr. Hunter's brought up, if there's value in bringing it, not that I think it's going to stop our skyrocketing insurance rates from continuing to do that, but we also got to protect people, and if for some reason something happens because we don't have it on there, there's a risk there. Obviously, it sounds like that we're incurring by not having the spreader. So I'd be okay if we wanted to leave that on, but otherwise I'm okay to take it off still as well. So
I've only heard 1 take it off.
Yep.
So
okay.
To me, if I haven't heard take it off, it means leave it on. I've only heard 1 take it off for 8, and I've got number 9 on my list as well. I think you said number 9 as well too, right? And you had 9 as well, so that's 3 for 9 to come off. And I think that's probably it then, unless somebody wants to speak to 8. You're the one that said 8, Joe. I don't know if you want to argue why, but
Well, I picked 8 because it had a 2 on it, so I assumed it wasn't a priority.
That's a good point. I mean, 2 tells me it doesn't have to happen this year as far as I read that. So sure. Take it off.
okay, Steve, 8 off.
No, I mean, I'll go along with it just so we move on. We'll be here all night.
All right, so let's take 8 off then too. Be done. Okay, are we clear on what's coming off?
Can you please repeat?
1. I didn't hear anybody else support 2.
Oh, I did.
You did?
Two's
Okay.
coming off too?
I had 2 as coming off.
Oh.
Okay. Okay, so I had 2. So then 1 and 2, 5, 8, 9, and 10.
Thank you.
Okay. And I will look to the treasurer for an update on the dollar value to that maybe after we're done going through the fire department one, so we can figure out how much of that 385 we've dwindled down. All right, so I think we're at one-time fire department items, and Brian, our chief, sorry, do you want to bring that forward?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sorry, the first thing I'd like to do is voluntarily remove number 1 from my list. And I trust the rest will stay. So I'll just go down through the list quickly. So number 2 is a fire master plan. That was identified in the strategic plan as a priority. It's been 17 years since we've had a review of the fire service. So I think with all of the changes in the last 5 or 6 years, I think that is a priority for me. Hydrant flow testing. A couple of years ago, we did some hydrant testing. We did a 50-50 split with the environmental services. That took place kind of at my request based on a fire code requirement. So I'm suggesting that moving forward, the fire department could budget some money every year or every other year for some hydrant flow testing. Item number 4, the bunker gear washer and dryer. I listed the full price there at 18,755. That is covered by the fire protection grant of 16,400, I think. So, but it will be shown as an expense in the budget this year. And the last one is just burn permit credits. Our burn permit system runs on credits. When people, the more active it is, the more it costs. There's economy of scale purchasing the credits. So I'm suggesting we purchase 100,000 credits at a cost of 6,000. It's a 40% discount. So the last time we bought credits was in 2020, I think. So we haven't bought credits in 5 years. Roughly 18,000.
Oh, we use that many a year. Okay. Okay, cool. All right. So, on my list, I think on my list, the only thing I had coming off at all was number 1, but, does anybody want to speak to it?
I just a little confused on the bunker gear. So the bunker gear really is going to cost us 2,300. Is that right?
It's funded.
That's correct.
Okay. 18. Yeah. Fine. Thank you.
Yeah, they got a grant. Anything else? 1, obviously.
Sorry, yeah, I had one. I had
You
a
wanna put one
comment
back in?
about, yeah. No, I had one. I had a comment just about the bunker gear, and I think we talked about the health and safety aspect to the volunteer fire department as well in doing that. So I want to keep that on for sure, is what I was going to say to that one. So
Yeah. And I it's not really a discussion on that one, is it? Right? I mean, we got 16 or so thousand as a grant from province, right? Or
It was delivered last week.
yeah, right.
That's a little bit.
Yeah.
no brainer.
Guys, anything? Karen? John? No. Okay. So good to go. I think he said good to go, didn't he? Did you say nothing? Okay. All right. So, yeah. Bear with me. I'm just looking background. There is no recommendation with this one, correct? Right? So I can move on. Okay, so then waste, 2025 waste one-time items. And who's going to speak to that? You're enjoying it tonight. DOO, bring it on.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have no suggestions to take anything off. So simply item number 1, there is we needed to cover the cost of recycling for January 2025. I thought it was important to make sure that that item was at least out in the open for the public to be aware of. So that was a $10,200 cost. As mentioned at a previous meeting with respect to the recycling for ineligible sources, there's $15,000 that could be placed in to cover those ICIs through 2025. We are having a bit of an issue with respect to the transfer station of unwelcome guests. Entering in on a more frequent basis in off hours. So we've looked into the pricing of a trailer mounted camera system. So it's there at a $17,000 price tag. Naturally, it's a priority rank of 2. It would probably be good. It's a little bit of a change in a level of service. However, we haven't had a camera system there to date, which really goes into number 4, which is perimeter fencing. We have almost exhausted the amount of temporary repairs we can make from the unwelcome visitors. So we're going to have to invest a little bit more money to make a larger repairs on that perimeter fencing, and not anticipating without some type of proactive measure being taken that may discourage those visitors that we won't be investing on a more regular basis on those repairs to the fence area. The last item is with respect to the Lions Club building, that if that moves forward, there certainly will be some disposal costs with the demolition of that building. So that's sort of in there as a placeholder.
That and that building is the one that's the area for the splash pad. Is that the idea?
That is correct.
Okay. And we're not talking about raccoons, as Chris suggested. We're talking about theft from the metal buckets and cutting holes in the fences at the transfer station.
That is correct.
Okay. Do we have any idea of what the value of material that's been stolen was? Like, we're putting 27,000 in to stop it. Obviously, you have to stop it, but I'm just curious if they stole $27,000 worth of product.
Through the chair, I would say unknown, probably unlikely that it's that quantity. I think it's more of the liability, more of the like MECP with their periodic inspections. It doesn't really matter to them whether you attempted to repair a fence or not. If it's not in that order, then it's it's a fix. It's a non-compliance.
Yeah.
It's an item in that end of it. So, it's an idea that may curb that activity. It may not. So.
Yeah. Is there, once that's done, would there be signage on the fence then that says that it's being video monitored? Is that sort of there is one there?
Yeah. So through the, yeah. So,
they took the sign too?
Through the chair. Yes. So we haven't removed the under video surveillance. At one point there was a camera on a post at the transfer site, so that it was posted at that particular time. But naturally, that camera didn't last very long.
So, and that leads me into my next question. So, what exactly is a trailer-mounted camera system, and how does it prevent the raccoons from cutting through the fence and stealing the trailer? Yeah.
It's through the chair. It's a mobile unit, clearly. So our plan would be to fence around it with probably, I don't know if we can use barbed wire or not, but some sort of mechanism around the top so you can't climb over it. You're gonna take the wheels off. They're not gonna steal it without the wheels, and if they do, somebody's gonna hear them. That's our plan at this time.
Okay, so instead of putting a camera on a pole, you're putting a camera on a trailer and then wrapping it with barbed wire.
So the chair would be putting a fence around the trailer.
Yeah, you guys, I wish your mics were on. I honestly, I think it needs to stop. I mean, it's very frustrating. It's very frustrating to see stuff in the ditch and, holes in the fence and getting phone calls. And I agree. And as much as we're laughing about it, it's not, I don't actually think it's funny. I think somebody can get hurt, and I do think it's bad. Councillor Smale, sorry.
Thank you. Through the mayor. Dave, is it the containers that they have, we keep the steel in, is there any containers that like we have at the shop where there's lids on them, you could lock them with steel lids? Or because we take the loader and the backhoe back there every week, we could flip the steel lid over and lock it, and then nobody can get anything unless they take the whole trailer or the whole unit.
Through the chair to Councillor Smale, the particular bins that we have now don't have a lid as per se. There was some conversation around getting a steel plate that would cover those bins, and it would be a lift on and a lift off every week. The challenge is now you're dedicating some additional equipment to be back there on every Saturday, and there would be nothing to prevent them from opening up the ends, right? So typically you can open up the end of those bins to either unload, but also on the Saturdays, it's sometimes opened up so that people can walk in to toss it, so you can because some people can't throw 4 or 5 feet in the air. So there are some challenges with respect to that. I'm not necessarily sure there's anything that would 100% stop it, but I'd certainly like to try to put in some measures that make it more difficult, and at least an opportunity that we can get some visual evidence with respect to potentially who's doing it.
Do we make money off of them bins, the township? All the steel and everything that goes in them?
With respect to the steel, yes, we would receive money back or revenue back with respect to the steel. The electronics bin is there at no charge. The electronics go in, and the company that picks that up receives all the revenue with respect to that bin. It's just sort of a service that we've provided.
So would we make enough money off of them bins and the steel to pay for this over a year? Point I'm getting at is, do we really need to take steel there? There's places where they can take steel out of everything.
Through the chair to Councillor Smale, we would not. There would probably be, with the steel end of it, we would probably be about 4 to 5 years recovering.
Okay, thanks, Dave.
The only other question I would have, Dave, is the quality of the camera and the positioning of the camera. Is it going to be such that is it just to deter, or is it to actually create enforcement?
The concept would be both.
Okay, so the quality of it will be enough that you can identify a license plate number, or you could identify an individual.
That is certainly the hope with respect to the system.
I'm fine with leaving it all in. So,
Sorry about that. I don't know. I just, with the camera, I'm just like, on the camera itself, does it actually, is it wirelessly transmitting video or what? And I'm not sure with the enforcement part of it, but I'm just saying, because otherwise, if it's not, I'm kind of afraid that we must just leave a $17,000 bag of cash for somebody to steal that as well, and which is my concern on that, to be honest, right?
Yeah.
So, but everything else I'm in favor for. This one here, I'm just not sure how effective it'll be. But if it is something that transmits data, so that if somebody does steal the camera, we actually got that footage as well, and it's a whole different story, maybe. But
Yeah, so certainly the idea would be that it would be recorded and backed up with respect to that. That could be that could be utilized. I think, as I indicated earlier, there's no guarantee that this kind of investment is going to actually fully stop it. But I think that it would likely only take 1 or 2 events where actually you have received the footage, been able to enforce and prosecute in that end of it, that might send enough of a signal. It may not. I just think doing nothing, all we're going to do is continue to have additional expense in maintaining perimeter fencing because they're getting bolder and bolder with the aggressiveness on the damage that they're doing to the fencing. And who knows what else once inside.
Yeah. Do we have any idea if it's just a group of people, like one group of people? Like if we actually get enforcement on that group, is it going to end it, or is it like a bunch of people? Or do we have any idea?
I really have no clue.
Okay. You wanted to speak?
Good.
Oh, just one sec, Joe.
And the other question I had is if, and I am on the fence on this one. I really, truly think that like if us, all we can really do is repair the fence and people are going to get in there anyways and we'll have to keep repair the fence again. Is there a lease option for something like this? Like, just like trial it for a year to see if it actually does anything. And if not, hand it back in and move on. Because I don't know if I want to spend all this money just to find it doesn't work for us. That's all.
You're going to spend it on fixing the fence because MECP is going to tell you to fix the fence. It's just really the camera that we're talking about. But yeah, are there other options for the camera?
Well, I think there are 2 locations that it could be relocated to next year if it doesn't work.
Good call. Let's move on, Mr. Mayor.
Joe had a question. Sorry.
Yeah, I am in favor of everything but the camera. I understand the concept here, and I think it would work absolutely great at the mall or in a public park. But knowing this demographic with my work history, and some of those raccoons are just going to see that camera as a target. It's probably got like 2-visit shelf life. Plus, you're going to have to see the people's faces. They're not driving in there, right? You're not going to get a license plate number. You're going to have to be able to see their faces. Those guys are wearing a hat or a toque and it's going to happen during the day with good lighting. I like the concept, but I think the sign that we've got on the fence now is going to be just as effective because this camera is not going to make it.
Can you spell toque? Waddy?
I absolutely agree with Joe, but I was thinking the signs we have, would it be illegal for us to post that we've already had people charged going in there? Because I worked when they did that. There was 4 or 5 people that have been charged. Prosecutors will be charged and prosecutors have been charged. Because once you read that, you're going to go, oh, wait a minute. They mean business.
Through the chair to Councillor Smale, I'm not sure on the legalities associated with that, but I certainly, it's something we can follow up on.
Pretty sure it'd be cheaper.
Karen, John?
I agree with Councillor Joe there. Camera's not gonna do anything. We have them too, and we've had, so the only way you ever catch anybody with a camera is have a hidden camera, and then you get to court and they're gonna charge you with entrapment that you're not gonna bring it into evidence anyway. So like, as they say, nobody's gonna walk in and show their face to the camera. If they do, as Joe said, the camera probably dies on the spot, so.
So what other, like, I get what the option for a camera or the need for a camera is there. I mean, that fence is getting chopped to pieces constantly. Is there an option other than a camera that gets us any result? I mean, I don't think the camera is going to live either, but how do we get the result we want if we don't go with a camera? Or do we just keep replacing the fence? A dog?
Through the chair, as we mentioned before, it may be a cover, or maybe we just, there is the option that was suggested. You can just remove the steel from the location. We don't accept it anymore. Right. I
don't know that that's an option.
Well, It's difficult to do anything without investing some money.
Can we get some of those nice state-of-the-art solar lights, which gives you like lots of light where they come near the fence and they snap on quick? That might scare them away. Yeah, but big, good ones. I mean, you have to worry about it, and they'll probably shoot them out if they want to get in that bad. But I'm just saying, those lights are there's some bright lights if you can get them up in a high pole where they can't get at them.
So
yeah.
I think
I mean, we can't
Excuse me.
beat this to death all night.
Yeah, so I think the best idea would be to, it sounds like the number 3, the trailer mounted camera system is a priority too anyways. So
No, oh yeah.
maybe it's best that if there's other solutions that you'd like, you can direct staff to look at other solutions.
So why don't we leave everything in, take 3 out. It's a secondary priority, and instead of doing 3, we ask for other options.
But leave the
Correct.
17 in though.
You want to leave the 17?
Leave it in, but not for a trailer mount. But we got 17
in
grand
case we need steel to
to
go over the
do
bins
something.
or
Yeah,
stuff.
maybe some lighting or whatever.
Yeah, okay. All right.
All right.
Fine. I'm fine. It's not the dollar value.
No,
It's the
is everybody fine with that?
Is everybody okay with that? That makes sense.
Perfect.
That's a lot of dogs.
Just need to.
Hold it together, John.
All
All right.
They love
Yeah, electric fence. Yeah. All right. So you're stepping away? You need to step away then. We'll invite you back. If the clerk can note that Councillor Martel has removed himself because of conflict.
What would the conflict be here?
Doesn't matter.
I'd like to know.
It's none of your business.
Well, unless,
All right. So
okay.
I'm just trying to get caught up.
8G, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, it's back and forth. That's all. Okay. All right. Mike, do you want to speak? Sorry. Facilities manager, do you want to speak to this? Sorry.
Put the mic on. No problem at all. Thank you.
Mike.
So you have in front of you a list of 5 things. They're all ranked as priority 1. The bottom 3 have already been number 3. We've already received the ice edger, the one that was at the Spencefield Arena, calved just before Christmas. So the new one came in just this week. I mean, as everyone is aware, the ice maintenance is done twice a week at the arena. The ice edger is the one that actually goes around and scrapes the corners and evens out the ice surface so that the corners don't get built up and we have high levels in different areas. So that was a requirement to have that done. Number 4, the ammonia leak sensors. When Simcoe Refrigeration was in to do their mid-season, they indicated that they weren't recalibrating back to 0. So out of the caution of safety for our staff, we have ordered the replacement of those sensors. Number 5, the senior wellness exercise class. This is something that the council wanted us to find an instructor because the Johnstown one that was being run by CPHC and the one that was out here that was being run by the Legion ceased prior to Christmas. So we have found an instructor and we've had a total, I think, 5 classes now, and we're averaging 8 to 10 per. So money well spent, but that's an additional $8,000 that wasn't in our programming budget for 2025. That was in 2024's budget. Number 1, Ingredion Center, we have 2 boilers that operate the in-floor heating. In-floor heating goes into all 6 change rooms, the referee's room and the first aid room. And what that helps is reduces the condensation in the change rooms. Our change rooms, after being constructed now, running for almost 13 years, are still in good shape. And it's because of the in-floor heating that helps the humidity levels in the arena. So the one has stopped working. We had them both refurbished in 6 years ago. And now the one has hit the end of its life cycle. Currently right now we're just operating with one boiler for the in-floor heating. And then number 2 is the water tank.
Mike, I'm just going to stop you for 1 sec.
Sorry, yes.
Just on this one. So the going into the, I don't want to go into the operating budget, which is next, but on page 47 of it, the heating costs for the arena double. The funding for in that budget is double, but this says that it's going to retain a consistent temperature and reduce energy consumption. So if it's a reducing energy consumption, how do the heating costs end up doubling?
That is just for the in-floor heating. Like the actual heating cost for the arena is like for the HVAC system, for the furnace system at the front of the building and at the back of the building and into the change rooms. The in-floor heating is just to keep the floor dry.
Okay, so we're gonna realize the savings there, but it's gonna be lost by the increased cost
That's
elsewhere.
correct.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that I understood
Yeah,
it before you
that's
moved
fair.
on. Okay,
Fair
you can
question.
keep
Yep.
going.
And number 2, the replacement of the hot water tank. It's a commercial grade hot water tank for the Zamboni. It is currently leaking right now. We will probably get to the end of March out of it, but we've obtained one price and we are just waiting for our second price right now. And that's it.
Can I ask a question on that one? So for the dual, so it's a dual tankless,
That's correct.
and is it in use elsewhere? Like, can the dual tankless keep
No,
up
it's-
with? I mean,
yeah.
I remember the size of hose when I worked there
Yeah.
to fill the Zamboni. It takes a lot of
Yeah.
water,
It's
and it
strictly
needs
just
it.
for the use of the Zamboni.
Right.
We have other
Yeah.
hot water tanks in the facility for
Yeah.
the change rooms and that. This one is strictly for the Zamboni usage. And the reason that it's the twin one is that it can fill the Zamboni up quicker.
Right.
And then when we're also flooding, we're able to have the usage of the water continuously while we're flooding the ice at the beginning of the season.
Right. And you don't have to wait for the,
That's correct.
yeah, okay. All right. And that ends up being a lot more energy efficient because you're not heating water that's not actually being used until you need it.
That's correct.
Yeah. All right. Thanks. Okay. Comments, questions from anyone that wants to comment?
Go ahead, Walt.
Oh, thank you. Number 4, Mike, the ammonia leaks what rink is that in? It doesn't say here.
In the bottom, it's the Spencerville Arena. Yep.
Question 1, Mike, we got one boiler going. It's only for the in-floor heating. The other one's out. Can we just change the one this year? 10 grand.
That is, through the chair to the deputy mayor, that is for one.
So we're not changing both boilers?
No, I've indicated that we have 2 there, but it's the one that we're replacing. The one
Okay.
that's not working.
Can the one do it?
If it goes, then
We have none.
we have none.
Okay.
And then.
But it's not the end of the world because it's only in-floor heating and it will cause a little condensation. But it's not, we're not going to freeze the pipes or anything like that.
No, you won't freeze the pipes in that, but over time, you will certainly change the air quality within the change rooms. Where
Right.
then your HVAC system that's at the front of the building has to be utilized more.
Right. Okay. I can go along with that. Second one, commercial grade hot water tank. Is that natural gas? Have we ever looked at leasing to Enbridge?
Yes, we have. Well, not through Enbridge, but we've asked the 2 companies that we are dealing with right now, and they've gone through Enbridge, and currently there is nothing available.
I would see if you could work with Enbridge or even St. Lawrence, Rideau St. Lawrence, and see if they can help us out. They're electric, but I wonder if they got some pull with Enbridge. I'm sure Enbridge would do anything for us. Well, not anything, but a little thing like that to help us out. If
We
it's
rent one-
possible.
Yeah, we rent one for the Spencerville Arena, but it's electric. It's not gas.
Right. And what's the recovery?
For
You're saying you don't rent one for the Zamboni, do you? To fill the Zamboni up? What's the recovery then?
recovery as
Of the hot water, how long does it take to fill up the
it's a hi-
Zamboni?
It's a high efficient commercial one.
So why wouldn't we look maybe electric with Rideau St. Lawrence?
We have not looked at that option.
Yeah, just something to look at. I mean, if you got to change it out, if it's leaking, it's going to go.
Oh, it is leaking right
Yeah,
now.
well, it's going to go. So, and then
Yeah.
you won't have nothing.
That's
So,
correct.
okay.
Is the reason we use gas or electric in Spencerville is because we don't have a gas option at Spencerville?
That is
Gas
correct.
is a lot cheaper than
That
electricity,
is
right?
correct.
Yeah. Especially at that,
Cleaner
at
energy.
that volume.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm okay to leave it all as well. But that conversation a bit about this, and it's more of a from a green perspective as far as the electric versus the gas. If we think there's more efficiency there from that perspective, the environmental perspective, I'm okay to put the 16,000 in towards something else if that option made more sense. So I don't know if you were saying that or not, but
No.
the 16 grand, leave it in. But how they want to approach it, I'll leave that up to staff. Is what I'm saying. So.
We'll look at the options.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think there's any,
That's true. Let's leave it all in.
I remember you sitting at budgets in the past, talking specifically about that arena and giving staff a hard time about the energy consumption rates in there.
And I think if we look at this, we'll probably cut the energy with St. Lawrence, Rideau St. Lawrence on this.
I think you might have hit your head. Okay, is there a recommendation with this one?
No, there's not.
No. Okay. All right. So, you got what you need out of that one. Leave everything in. Staff options for fuel to run it. And Councillor Martel will be coming back to the table. If we can note that in the minutes.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I can sleep better tonight.
Your mic's on, Steve. And so then we are on to H, which is the 2025 draft operating budget. And are you going to speak to that, Ms. Crawford? Yeah.
Thank you, through the chair. So proposed is the draft of the 2025 operating budget. Included is a 3% increase to the tax levy, as well as a 1.14% for growth, primarily driven by the compensation review, which was undertaken in the fall of 2024 and placed into effect for January 1st, 2025, as well as increases for impacts of inflation. So in the draft budget, if you look at the summary page, you will see the separate columns for the base amount, as well as one-time budget items and the service level changes. So, in that summary, it's showing 794 based on conversations that were just previously had. That number is going to change to 279,194, just a decrease in those one-time items and service level changes. So if we want to walk through each department, nope, or you want me to highlight some items in each.
I think it's your report. I'll let you, present your report how you choose to report it.
Okay,
Or
so I'll just
bring it-
highlight some
yeah.
items in each budget. So for taxation, increase of the 3% as well as a 1.14 for growth, as well as an increase in the yearly amount for the Ontario Municipal Partnership Fund. And we have removed the amount for the transfer to reserve from the port under the assumption that something will be coming forward for the surplus sharing agreement from the port. For council, the change in honorariums is due to the results and the implementation of the compensation review and placed into effect for January 1st of 2025. And also some reallocations of mileage to conferences and conventions. And throughout the budget, you will see the changes in salaries and benefits, as well as the result of the compensation review, as well as reallocations and changes within the staff that occurred in 2024, moving forward in 2025. In particular, in building, we have a shared partnership with our CBO with the town of Prescott, and as well as our planner is shared with the town of Prescott. So you'll see those amounts reflected in the budgets.
Thank you. I think I'll go real quick just because I had a couple of comments. So, I noticed in a couple of them, like in, I'm on eScribe, not going through the numbered budget, but in the increase in admin cost, there was like a $481,000 increase in admin costs. But in other areas there were some decreases too. Or is it just is it just shuffling? Like
That is correct. We had a staff member that was allocated to multiple departments, but now is allocated just to admin.
okay. Yeah, that's what I made the assumption. And again, so stuck in the budget at United Counties, they do it as the internal chargebacks, right? And it gets even more confusing than reading this one. Under the
Sorry, I'll also note as well, there's a decrease in administration. There's a decrease in revenue due to the decline in interest rates. So we have
yeah, I saw that.
reduced that amount.
Yeah.
So 100,000.
Right, which would increase the other by 100, right? Yeah, because it doesn't differentiate between revenue and expense in this one. Under the building budget lines, salaries are down 25,000. Now, is that a reallocation because of the sharing agreement with Prescott?
Excuse me, that is correct.
Okay.
And also, if you're comparing to last year, we budgeted the salary for the whole year at a full-time salary, whereas for a portion of the year we only got 50%.
Yeah, and going through line by line on this one, the CPC was double, or the CPP was double. The health tax is lower, the EI is lower, the group insurance is 30% lower, but OMERS is more than double. How does that make sense? Like I struggled with that a little bit.
So the way that we allocated the salary was we took as if we were to have a full-time CBO, and I'm not sure in previous budgets if that person was budgeted to have pension, but we are budgeting that here, and we're just allocating 60%, as well as there could be changes in prior budgets for CPP as depending on who was in that role at the time.
Okay, and it's comparing it out to the last.
Correct.
To the last budget. So while we saw an increase in OMPF, we saw basically an equal and offsetting reduction in OCIF and CBBF, right? I think that's worth noting as we go through this. One thing that I had done was, and I'm sure we spend more than this. I'll look at Chris when I say this. 146,000 is what the number I saw for fuel charges, but I'm sure that there's more offsets in that in gas usage and for the arenas to to run those boilers and heat the water. There's 26% of that is carbon tax. So not baked into this budget could be the potential of that number coming off of those costs too. I just thought it was worth noting that would change that line number down more to the 115 range if that, every leader right now in the race is saying that carbon tax will either change or end. I've got a ton of stuff in here that when I went through, but the only item that I think I was really concerned about, and it's only because we had the last big numbers with winter control, and I listened to them, Brockville mayor speaking that right now it's costing $20,000 a night to do snow removal in Brockville to clean up the banks extra than what they had baked into their budget. So when I looked at the winter control number on page 41 of 55, my question to staff is, we've had 2 back-to-back storms. I've seen our fantastic public works staff doing a wonderful job clearing the roads and doing the great work that they're doing, and we're all thankful for that. But is the budget adequate to cover the costs that you're actually seeing right now? And is that something that we should actually be increasing now so that we don't find ourselves in a shortfall in the next budget year?
Thank you through the chair. We haven't done a major adjustment with respect to the winter control, but you'll note that within the reserves, we have a winter control reserve of approximately, I think, 168,000, which is exactly what that reserve is intended to do, is balance out those what we'll call bad years. So I would anticipate that once we hit into spring and assess where we're at for the season, it's likely that by the end of 2025 we will be taking a drawdown from that winter control reserve.
Yep. Two more quick comments. One thing that there's 25K in library repairs. Facilities manager. Does that include a north door or repairs to the north door? Okay, and on page 54, we made a considerable investment in buying the former ED19 property. We are aware that it needs clean out and clean up from a beaver control perspective. There's only $3,000 in the budget for that this year. Is that adequate to get that land back to the level that we need it to get back to? And should that potentially be line item be slightly increased? And that's it for everything I had.
Through the chair, yes, I think it would make good sense to increase that amount.
I don't know what it costs to do the control, but I know that this group, wants to move that. We didn't just buy it to own it. We bought it to do something with it. So
For sure.
Gotta get
A
it
lot
up.
of the beaver control costs would have been incurred in 2024. So I'll take a look at what those actual costs were and when the consolidated budget's presented, that number may increase.
yeah, good. Okay, thanks for that. And I'll look around to speakers if anyone wants to go on the operation budget. Just put your hand up and you can. Okay, Steve, go.
I just, on the beaver control, we do have, just not that one on Byers Road, but there's other issues in our township, so it will be a good idea to help that. So, good catch, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, sorry, any other speakers to the operational budget numbers and the individual department line by lines? I might have stole your thunder. If I did, I apologize. Yeah, go ahead, Steve.
Building. I always thought that the building is supposed to run on their own. In other words, we don't put anything in the budget for our building inspector, like our the building permits is paying their salary type of thing. Is that?
I think that that's the concept, and
Right.
anything that's over would go to surplus is what.
Which goes into reserves for them.
Right.
Okay.
Anyone else want to speak to operation budget? Karen, anything? No? John? You're good with it? Waddy? Joe? Chris?
You did steal thunder, though. It's fair, but that's fair. I'm
No.
glad you got it out. So
Yeah, thanks. I had to.
I know.
It was my thunder. I think we do. Okay, is there a recommendation with this?
No.
You just wanted to hear
We just wanted to hear thoughts, so that way when we prepare the consolidated budget, it has all of the items in there from capital and operating in one time, and that way we can prepare the exact amount that is required for balancing.
Yeah, and I'd like to take the opportunity, I guess, at this point, real quick, to just say thank you to staff for this part of it. I personally, for myself, I like to see it compared, 5 years, but I really appreciate seeing the number compared to last year's approved budget and seeing it in a line by line ish way, so that I can greater understand where those little envelopes are and how they're being divided up, and whether that's, you know, the fire or whether it's building or which department it is. I certainly find it helpful as we move through this process, and I find that it speed things along. So I know this one's the operations versus the capital, but I certainly find that it helps, and it helps in understanding. So thank you to, you know, all of you for the work that you've done.
Thank you. And moving forward too, if council would like to see actuals as well, we can always add more information to these reports as well.
Yeah, good. That's great. All right, so moving on then, correct? Councillor inquiries and notices of motion. Anyone have an inquiry or notice of motion? Does anyone have a member report? Does any questions? Nobody online? Okay, we're going to proceed into closed. Who has the motion to proceed into closed session?
I do, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself and seconded by Deputy Mayor Dillabaugh that committee proceeds into closed session at 7:19 p.m. in order to address a matter pertaining to Section 239 2C, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by a municipality or local board, specifically minutes of a closed session dated January 23rd, 2025, and Section 239 2J, a trade secret or scientific, technical, commercial, or financial information that belongs to the municipality or local board and has monetary value or potential monetary value, specifically insurance renewal, unsolicited bid for service.
Okay. Does anyone have any discussion before I call the vote on proceeding into closed session? Okay, hearing nothing, then I will call the question on proceeding into closed session. All in favor? Okay, we're in closed session. We'll take a 5-minute break to clear the room. What time is it? 7:20. So we need a couple of dogs. Is that what?
law that the closed session meeting of the committee does now adjourn and the open meeting does now resume at 7:46 PM.
All right, I'll call the question to return to open session. All in favor? Okay, we're back in open session, and in closed session, we met under section 239(2)J to a trade secret or scientific, technical, commercial, or financial information that belongs to a municipality or local board that has monetary value or potential monetary value, specifically our insurance renewal and unsolicited bid for service. As a result of receiving that information, we gave direction to staff, and we also discussed minutes. And I believe Councillor Smale, you have that to bring forward.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Turn your mic on.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Council. Your mic.
You went too quick. You went too quick, Counselor.
Sorry.
Double tapper. Tap, tap.
Testing, 1, 2.
That's everything second.
Yeah, that's right. He's got to do it a second time.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Joe Martell, that the committee receive and approve the minutes of closed session dated January 23rd, 2025. Pass it on, please.
All right, then I'm going to call the question on approval of the minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, and then I need I think we're on adjournment then, correct?
So move.
We've reported out. So moved by, okay.
Let me make sure my mic is on.
Didn't know that you had it.
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Waddy Smale. The committee does now adjourn at 7:48 PM.
All right,
Thank you.
non-debatable. I'll call the question. All in favor? We're adjourned.